at his house, arrested him, and dragged him off to Vincennes prison. 3 months later, shortly before he was released, the Lieutenant General de Police made a special trip to the prison to warn the writer that any further immoral or irreligious publications would bring about a jail sentence measured in decades, not months. Diderot took this threat seriously. For the next 33 years he avoided publishing the kind of inflammatory books that he had authored as a young man. Much of the energy that he might have devoted to such endeavors was redirected toward the all-consuming Encyclopedie. When he finally completed the last volume of illustrations in 1772, the now elderly writer was well aware that he was a celebrity throughout Europe, and even in parts of North America. But he was not really considered a literary great. His fate, as he admitted quite openly, was perhaps to survive long after his reputation as an encyclopedist had faded, growing ever older and vanishing without leaving a significant work behind. This, in fact, seemed to be the case when he died in 1784, although several obituaries credited him for being the leader of the generation of thinkers that had utterly changed the country. They also hinted that he had not lived up to his indisputable genius. Even his friends reluctantly agreed. Jacques-Henri Meister, who revered the man, wistfully acknowledged that Diderot never produced a book that would have placed him among the first tier of our philosophes or our poets. Charitable friends blamed the writer's supposedly limited literary production on the burden of the Encyclopedie. Others privately ascribed this failing to his famously whirligig brain. As was often the case, the sharp-tongued Voltaire, who both admired and distrusted Diderot, came up with the cleverest remark on the subject. He apparently joked that the encyclopedist's mind was an oven that burns everything that it cooks. What Voltaire and virtually everybody else did not know was that Diderot had actually written an astonishing range of improbably modern books and essays for the drawer, as the French like to say. Holed up in his 6th-floor garret office in the Rue Curran for the last third of his life, Diderot produced this cache of writing with the hope that it might one day explode like a bomb. This moment was prepared for carefully. When the author reached his 60s, borrowed time during the 18th century, he hired copyists to produce 3 separate collections of manuscripts. The first and most complete set was entrusted to his daughter, Angélique, whom we know as Madame de Vandieul. A second, less complete group of writings was transferred to his designated literary heir and devotee, Jacques-André Naigeon. And 6 months after his death, 32 bound volumes of manuscripts, along with Diderot's entire library of 3,000 books, traveled by ship to Catherine the Great in St. Petersburg. Diderot's unedited books, essays, and criticism far surpassed what he had published during his lifetime. Among these writings were 2 very dissimilar but equally brilliant novels. The first of these, La Religieuse, The Nun, is a gripping pseudo-memoir of a nun who suffers unspeakably cruel abuse after she announces that she wants to leave her convent. The second, Jacques le Fataliste, is an open-ended anti-novel where Diderot used fiction to take up the problem of free will. But there were also thick notebooks of revolutionary art criticism, a godless science fiction-like chronicle of the human race, a secret political treatise written for Catherine the Great, a humorous satire on the absurdity of Christian sexual mores set in Tahiti, as well as some of the most moving love letters in the history of French literature. To become familiar with the range of Diderot's work is to be stupefied. Among other things, the philosophe dreamed of natural selection before Darwin, the Oedipus complex before Freud, and genetic manipulation 200 years before Dolly the sheep.